And then you have the All Nigerian People's Party, ANPP. There were splinters from other groups, but these are basically the legacy parties who submitted their certificates, and it was converted to one big party. And now between the period that spiral the negotiation, which started far back as 2010, 2011, a lot of people did not think it was something that would come true. But based on vision, compromise, and a hint of hard work, it was able to come true. And in the context of Anambra State, APC has been a very consistent political party. Started growing, as you would see, in mustard seed, basically in 2007, 2006. 2006 was the mobilization time, and then 2007 we went on as AC, Action Congress. And then, of course, when Atahiru Bakora led his DPN to join us, we became ACF. Since then, we have won a lot of elections in Nigeria, particularly as legacy party. At some point between 2011 and 2015, we had in the Senate representing Anambra Senator Chris Nwabezengige. And in that era, you also had 6 persons who were elected. It could have been more, but election being what it is, it can be too perfect at the moment. But we've since put that behind us. Now, coming to the day, APC remains a closely knit, closely organized, well-managed party that flows from the central manifesto of the party. It is a party you hardly hear crisis. I did not say conflict. Conflict will naturally arise because politics is a game of conflict. And so, but it stands to our credit that when conflicts have arisen in our party, we have found the acumen to bring the resultant, the competing forces to zero. And so we stand tall when it comes to party cohesion, party management, and being able to deal with issues and not persons. So that's how APC has fared so far. And again, in terms of profile and performance, which I have given partly, APC is very small. In the last gubernatorial election, we came second by the official result declared by INEC. Because we did not go to court, there is no point going into any ding-dong affair regarding the result, but that's how it stands. So from a second position, we look forward that when INEC eventually lifts the ban on campaign, we shall run a very strong and robust campaign that would remind our people where we're coming from and where we should go. And if I can use the next 1.5 minutes to tell our people where we're coming from. I come from Anambra State. The state in question we're talking about is Anambra State. There's one other person that comes from Anambra State apart from Chima Achebe. His name is Nnamdi Azikiwe. He does not need introduction as far as Nigerian politics is concerned. When the Igbos were at the highest level of their organization, it owed directly to Nnamdi Azikiwe or people who belong to his school of thought. We read history and we remember the Igbo State Union. Those things were not an accident. And so it is also not an accident that some of the people who believed in Zikism, like M.I. Okpara, who became the best premier at the time the Eastern economy was the fastest growing in the world, and Senator Dr. Chris Nwabezengige, Onwa, were able to project and duplicate some of these principles. And what do I mean? A lot of people talk about so many discordant things and allude to it as the way out of a certain situation they assume for people. But as far back as the 1994 Constitutional Conference, there was a body called Mboko Igbo. A lot of people who take time to study the affairs of Igbo will remember that body. Now, that Mboko Igbo was a collage of Igbo organizations, including Aka Ikenga. It was on the basis of the cohesion of this body that the Igbos had an agenda that they pushed using very powerful spokesmen like Dr. Alex Ekweme, Emeka Odumegwu, both of blessed memory. And they positioned the agenda in such a way that despite resistance, they were able to achieve the 6 zonal structure that we use today, even from the standpoint of a minority report. But the major point that one needed to establish here is that Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, who has seen it all, who has been victimized because he was the arrowhead of a colonial struggle, that Nigeria must have a self-governance, advised in text, in speeches, and in books that they should never play politics in isolation. Instead, that they should play in big political parties where they can form a strong Igbo caucus. To the credit of our forebears, our recent forebears, who in this republic tried to put together the original PDP, they did a little bit of that. But things started falling apart when Dr. Alex Ekwueme was displaced and they lost the full group. And then came the answer of Anambra. Looking back so many years down the line, many Igbos who are what they saw think that it was the wrong answer. The right answer would have been, particularly sticking to the philosophy laid down by Nnamdi Azikiwe, would have been to respond with another national party, which was not too difficult to build, in the sense that there's one advantage that exists. In every state of Nigeria, you do not only find Igbo man, you find them in about 10% of the population on the average. And then it became a very huge advantage. You have town unions all over the place. That with a little bit of mobilization, it is easy to form a national party, if that is it. Particularly in the light of the fact that they were coming from a civil war situation where suspicion is still the order of the day. And so what am I saying? That the Igbos have tried being in isolation in a party, and it has failed. They always manage to point the compass in a particular direction to think that some people hate you. But if you expand the issues, you will understand that it is actually those people who will come to you with clannish recommendations, with clannish ideology, without any manifesto in between, that have turned out to shortchange our people. So whereas we have put APC government in Anambra State, for instance, getting close to 16 years, there is really nothing in terms of a calibrated measure of progress that goes down to GDP, that goes down to human development indices. Whereas on the other side, where we were a landlocked country or a landlocked state, looking for help from every corner and trying to breathe, we have found a government at the center of Nigeria that says there was no entry to the southeast by road. Let us give you a second Niger bridge. Let us repair all the federal roads that traverse the southeast so that you give the impression that human beings live here. That is by land. And then by sea, they appointed people, an Anambra man was appointed and he was given the target on the dredging of the lower Niger, with the sole aim of getting inland vessels to Onitsha seaport to reactivate it. That is by sea. And then by air, found the boldness to shut down what was pretended to be an international airport in Enugu and is repairing it to world-class standards. That means that the southeast economy will open from land, sea, and air. And that is the standpoint upon which APC proposes a reorganization. But before I take a breather to leave you to rejig, let me also say that we are quick to now project that we will be holding a governorship election in Anambra State. But in all reality, I want all of you who are listening to me this evening to ask, should we really be preparing for governorship election now? Is it the next election on the table? What is the structure of Anambra State? We have 21 local governments. It is easy for us to look beyond the small ones that make a lot of difference and look at the big ones. Should we not have asked what has happened at the local government level? Why are there no elections? My brothers and sisters who live in diaspora, they understand that if you're talking about the UK, you have councils. In America, you have counties. And I do not see any one of them not holding elections when we pretend to mimic democracy and they are preparing for presidential elections. So let's first address a fundamental issue that as we talk today, we are trying to climb a tree from the top. So whereas all other many parts of Nigeria have won their democracy and it has permeated their grassroots, Anambra is in the throes of a struggle for democracy. And those who pretend to run our affairs today do not find anything wrong with that. And so that is a food for thought. If you are in diaspora, you can ask your folks back home, what is happening to the local government funds as is provided for and is allocated from the federation account? Who is managing it and why? Why is that a perversion? Why should it not happen? And why would we continue to tolerate all sorts of infractions in the name of politics? Let us stop for a moment to ask ourselves if we should not first hold the local government election, which is a training ground for leadership at the state level. I dare say that we have commonized politics to the point where we say that if you succeed in business, then you become a political leader. I guess the trainings are different. That's why I am quick to refer to Anambra. I'm quick to refer to his scion, Michael Okara. I remember Mbono Ojike. I recall Francis Akanu Ibiam. And I know about Dim Chukwemeka Odomegwu Chukwu. You cannot compare their orientation and their training with the kind of things you find today. And this is happening because there's no training ground. APC is interested in building Anambra from the bottom and building it from the rear to an apex where we can now confidently discuss leadership at the top. But let us understand that there is something very damaging at the very foundation of Anambra state democracy. Let me stop here so far.
That is a very, very eloquent presentation. And I'm sure our listeners will have noted down some points on which to ask questions. But before even though we are concentrating and we are discussing about Anambra State, can we, before coming that, look at APC at the national level, for instance? It will only take briefly before we go back, please. When the All Progressive Congress took over the leadership of Nigeria in 2015, there were some promises that were made to Nigerians. Now, 5 years after, can you say that the APC leadership at the center, how far have they gone in fulfilling those promises they made to Nigerians in 2015 and then repeated again in 2019?
Thank you very much. Yes, APC made a promise. APC decided to reorganize our economy as a country. APC decided that the over-dependence on oil is not a very good thing for the future of Nigeria. And we thought that it would take so many years to prove the wisdom in that. But even COVID-19 and the oil industry crash before that has quickly proven that. Now, the APC outlined the non-oil sectors to focus attention on. Many of them border on building. When you talk about building, which I should know about, it is never a 1 day or 1 minute or 1 week thing. So APC promised alternatives in steel development. As I speak to you, all the intricate legal issues and booby traps surrounding the development of Ajaokuta steel has been dismantled. And what is left is to run to progress in a way that we can at least start from the building of bodies of cars and we can reinforce our story building. APC promised to pay attention to agriculture. When APC took over at the center, agriculture represented 1.3% of our GDP. And today, it is over 8% and still counting. If you come to agriculture, sometimes it is good to illustrate with specifics. When we took over, all the rice we ate, including the plastic we did, were imported from Thailand. Today, our country, by sheer will, political will, can produce the rice they eat, nearly 90%, if not more. And somebody said in the past that suppose it was in those days when we used to import every rice we ate from Thailand, and then COVID-19 struck, airlines being shut down, shipping terminated, everything, every man to himself, every patriot to his own country. Now, what would have happened? And I'm glad to answer that the philosophy of APC and the resoluteness have answered that. APC promised a lean government so that they will reduce the cost of governance. That is being achieved. The first thing that we did was an institutional audit that reduced the number of ministries from 42 to 24. By a later day wisdom, it was discovered that certain ministries were too big, so it came back to 30 something. Still, lean government is. APC reoriented public officers and drew.
Excuse me, sorry, Mr. Madukaife, please. I don't know. The voice is still not. The voice is still not the best at the moment. Is there anything we can do to improve it, or possibly? No, the video is fine, and you are using a hands-free, so it's not about adjusting your device. The video is very, very nice, yes. But I noticed that you are using a hands-free.
Is this my projection then?
Sorry?
Is it my voice projection?
No, it's excellent. I'm talking, maybe it's about the device or maybe the network, but I look at your network, you're having a very, let me pause the record. All right. So I hope you've not lost your train of thought, so please continue.
No, certainly not.
Yes,
the last, I said APC came to power promising that we will diversify Nigerian economy, and we've been doing just that. We used to be wholly dependent on oil, and there's a lot of incremental steps that are taking us to working on how we can develop steel as a raw material from Majakuta. That there are visible trends shown by percentage, moving from 1.3 to 8% in agriculture. And then we also say that APC promised a lean government, and they're doing just that. Because we have reduced the amount of waste that go on in government and translated that to infrastructure development, which is which will trigger off economy in the medium term. APC promised security. By the time our party came to power at the national level, the Boko Haram insurgents had claimed over 14 local government areas in Nigeria. And some emirs have been sacked and some have gone into exile. That is not happening anymore. Why? Because APC did what we said we would do right from opposition. We are a good opposition party. We propounded the idea that they should move the command center close to the theater of insurgents. And the government of the day failed to do it, and we did it as a government. We networked international cooperation to create a buffer zone with the route from which small arms used to enter from the Maghreb. So we got the cooperation of Cameroon, Chad, and all other countries working together to attack the insurgents. And today, we are no longer talking about attacking the United Nations Center in Abuja. We're no longer talking about things going as far as Kaduna. We're no longer talking about that. What we are talking about is a war that is effectively won, but the effects of the war are still with us. Because once you introduce arms into a system, particularly small arms in the hands of untrained persons, it takes a while to do that. Now, but Boko Haram insurgency is not the only issue of security. A lot of us are beginning to forget the name Shinarambo, and it owes to the actions of a government. Inter-border crimes in the West Coast. Those things no longer happen. And with the action of APC to close the border at some point. It wasn't a pleasant action. It was a delayed enforcement of the ban on 41 items that were draining our economy and dumping things in our territory and stopping the growth of small industries. And it made a triple achievement in the sense that a lot of arms were recovered. That's the security side. On the side of the economy, a lot of things that were being smuggled into the country, which were otherwise banned and were sabotaging our economy, is no longer there. And we were able to control cross-border crime. APC promised anti-corruption crusade. And it is driving that battle to the point where you can say that today no one is above the law. It is driving that battle to the point where you can say you will rise to be answerable for whatever you did, whoever you are. It doesn't matter whether you're a chief justice, it doesn't matter whether you are a governor, but somebody has developed the will and the verve and the courage to do that. That person is working on the manifestos of APC. Now, APC, in the line of development of infrastructure, as I touched on before, can say tonight that looking at the southeast, I'm afraid I will always refer to my constituency. The road from Enugu to Onitsha is no longer home to a cassava farm that we found in 7 years before this government. But what is coming up there is a Class A world-class standard federal road. And the same thing is happening on Enugu Port Harcourt Road and then Owerri Port Harcourt Road, using the 3 as a symbol to represent the 69 roads. I've already talked about the second Niger Bridge. And so, by plowing this and moving it into infrastructure and moving our people into the productive sector, APC has set on the track such that Nigeria, for better, will never be the country that we met when we took over. With one single-mindedness, APC implemented the BBN policy, which they did not introduce. But it has helped the anti-corruption battle because today, monies that have been abandoned in the bank has been recouped into the federal ports for the development of you and I. And no local government is owed money from federal allocation. Instead, what we're dealing with is a situation where some elements are draining the money and no elected person is in the local government. We can go on and on, but like you rightly said, this is not about the federal government today. It's about the state of APC in Anambra State. And I dare say APC is ready. We are ready, we are cohesive, we have a drive, we have a message, and we stick to it. We campaign on issues. We are ready to win local government elections, and we are ready to win the governorship election. Thank you.
I thank you very much again for the nice response of the answer. Right, Mr. Madukaife, you have taken us on a train ride, telling us about the APC, which we all appreciate. Now we are now back to the APC at the local level. You told us, I recollect, and you often repeated it here, that you started with the ACN as the publicity secretary of the ACN before the party merged with other parties to form the APC. Now, we note that at the inception, ACN had a very, very, very sellable candidate in the person of Dr. Chris Ngige, Onwa, which Anambrarians loved very much because of the little they saw him do when he was in the PDP before things they took a different turn. But surprisingly, as a candidate of the ACN, and I think he was also as a governorship candidate of the ACN, yes, he failed to win the governorship post of Anambra State. And then again, in 2015, when APC fielded a different candidate, or 2014 is it, a different candidate, APC has also failed to win the governorship position in the state, even when they have the federal, even when they are in power at the center. Now, what can you attribute to these developments? Why have the ACN and now APC failed to clinch the governorship position in Anambra State?
Okay, at the risk of sounding controversial, in 2013, APC won the governorship election of Anambra State. But another party was declared. We have since put that behind us.
Let's
came out second.
Okay, let me hear that correctly. In 2013, in 2013, I think the candidate.
In 2013,
who is the APC candidate then?
The governorship election of Anambra State.
Who was the APC candidate then?
Well, we have a lot to do. We have a lot to do about the integrity of elections. So victory on the ground needs to be harmonized with victory at the official level. And that's why I tell you that information and statistics at our disposal, which cannot be the official statistics, is that APC won the election in 2013. And so, but you win some, you lose some. You compromise some in a game of conflict and you move ahead. If we begin to look at the history of elections in Nigeria, you will be surprised which ones were elections that were won and which ones were elections that were not won. And sometimes it's always better to look forward. So, but in discussions like this, it becomes better to set a proper perspective to understand this thing, you know. So that is the situation. In 2017, APC came second, and 2021 is the next governorship election.
So you are saying that the reason why.
So if it's a student, he took first and was declared third for whatever reason, then he took another second, and now he's preparing to take first. It's consistent.
So you are saying that in the previous elections that that APC actually won, but someone else was declared.
Yeah, APC did very well. APC won the election in 2013, came second in 2017, and since then, let us even further expand the understanding of its consistency, because again, it's a research question, but I challenge you. APC is the only opposition party in Anambra State today. Why? We have a position on every issue of governance. We voice that opposition. We state the alternative policy that will lead to better results. And we've had the government in many instances implement that from APC without giving us credit.
Let me now let me take you up on this now. That is one of the very controversial policies of the present governor in office is the issue of internally generated revenue. We have received complaints about the way the state officers or state agencies go about in raising money for the state government. What is the APC's position on that with regards to all these fines and levies on market?
Raising money for who?
The way the state government goes about raising money for the state into the state coffers. The issue of levies imposed on street traders, on market traders, in an effort to boost IGR, and also the issue of multiple taxes in the state. Some people pay a lot of taxes to the local government agencies, to state agencies. Some people even don't know who are the rightful people to collect this money in the first place. So what is the party's position in this matter, on this matter?
Thank you very much. If there's a doctor in the house, he will tell you that the most severe part of malaria is not that you run a temperature or you have a headache. Those are symptoms. As a party that is in the center left, we are very deep on issues and we are solution prone. We come from a positive perspective. That's why in my opening analysis, I said that many other states, and let me not say all, have left Anambra because we are in a struggle for democracy. We have not achieved democracy. We are supposed to have 22 governments in Anambra State. And today we have only one. That one, because it's the only one, the only bull in the China shop, is breaking every China ware. You just talked about market levies. Who does the market belong to? Who owns the market? By the structure of governance and the stratification of roles between tiers of government, who owns the market? The owner of the house is not around. And so the person who is not an owner begins to take it over. If you do a proper election, you are going to see a systematic clash of interest between the local government who is elected and the state government, and those things will streamline themselves. They have no business in the first instance to answer you directly. Collecting the levies they collect, and I'll give an instance. They were collecting something they called oil levy, wheelbarrow levy, and all sorts of levy. When we screamed, by the time the exploitation got to 3.6 billion naira, we screamed that you are doing the wrong thing because what you're doing, arresting people and locking them up, the money you are collecting does not belong to you, and by law it is retrievable. And we threatened to go to court. The moment we did that, the state government came up with a broadcast that they are waiving those levies out of their own magnanimity, and that the funds, which was then about 4 billion, will be moved into an organization, an agency called APC, where it will now be used to service small scale industry. That is the last waiting for the owner to scream. And so that is my way of approaching the answer to that question. The local government, when they are elected, they take care of their revenue sources. It is not the business of the state government. Those levies do not belong to them. Their own is to strategize for the state, to raise internal revenue, and there are so many avenues to do that for government that is serious-minded. The tourism sector has not been touched. The power sector has not been touched, despite the fact that APGA promised that they will build 3 independent power stations. We have not seen any major infrastructure that represents us. If we talk about this mausoleum today, it is because of the federal government. Nothing captures the economic potentials of Anambra State. And what we are looking for in Anambra State is a vision leader. It's somebody who not just is elected to manage a company because he has run a company and got a lot of money. You are talking about somebody who can see tomorrow. And seeing tomorrow involves articulating these little elements to be able to take the state in a reformist journey. We are not seeing that, and that's what we need. So it goes beyond the levies they collect, which are illegal anyway, but again, we must continue to motivate Anambra people to pay more attention to the issues of governance. A lot of these things happen because we are not interested in governance. We like minding our daily business. There is a particular matter in the Supreme Court now. It owes to local government elections for 2016 specifically, and it was activated by APC. We won it at the High Court level. There was an appeal which they won at the appeal court, and it is before the Supreme Court. And we'll see how that matter goes. But what the point being made is that Anambra at the moment needs a lot of civil society, apart from political parties. We can come to issues partly seriously and partly sometimes because of partisan interest. You need the civil society. You need the conscience of society. We need a lot of that. We have a lot of people pursuing money in a raw race, but not ending up with real money. And that is why Anambra needs reform. It is not the kind of state you will now live in the hands of people without vision. And then let me give you another example that borders on the economy. Anambra used to be number 6 in terms of internally generated revenue, which you mentioned. Today, we are number 25 on the list. Kwara State, Zamfara State, these are states that are above us. It does not take a soothsayer to know that we are in deep trouble and something drastic needs to happen. And remember that Albert Einstein said that madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. So if you've done the same thing over and over again for 16 years, and you are where you are, not moving 1 inch, it is time to think differently. It is time to position at the latitude of government with vision. And obviously, APC is the right place to be because we have the talent and we are using it. The parable of the talent in the Bible depicts clearly that if you have a talent and you don't use it, then you are not in the good books of the Lord.
So let me ask you.
We are the only opposition party. You cannot tell me any opposition party in Anambra State, apart from APC, that marks ASGA issue for issue, policy for policy, and pace for pace. The others are waiting for elections to distribute rice and salt and to take our people on another all-year deceitful journey.
Now, why has it been possible for Anambra State actually to conduct local government elections? Because really, I cannot remember when the last time Anambra local government councils have an elected executive. Starting.
Thank you very much. I take that as a motion that the next episode of this your show should be the APC government. I hope they will honor that invitation. They are in a position to explain why it is difficult in terms of vision, in terms of practice, in terms of conscience to conduct local government elections. Why it is difficult to run the country in line with the Constitution, which espouses in Section 7 that every government in the Federation must be democratically elected.
But why has the APC not challenged? Because you have just referred to the Constitution. The Constitutions are meant to be enforced. So why have the opposition...
You were not following me when I said that the APC has a matter in the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Now,
so what's the decision of the Supreme Court? So
we triggered off a judicial action in the High Court, and the High Court compelled Anambra State government to conduct local government elections. That was on May 18, 2017. But rather than obey the court, even if it's for the outcry of Anambra in terms of frittering away the local government funds, they chose to appeal. Why was it necessary to appeal? But so even if we leave the social aspect as to why it was necessary to appeal, a government that goes ahead to conduct an election, even if the matter is in the appeal court, the matter dies. But they choose not to do that, and it's being dragged now up to the Supreme Court. There must be a honeypot there that somebody doesn't want to leave, but we all pay for it because the money being spent at the local government area is not appropriated. It is not deliberated upon. The government provides for a legislator in the local government in form of councillors. Now, those people are not there. That in itself is a training ground for leadership. Now, because leadership is tested at a small level. So Anambra leadership is not stratified.
I also understand. Mr. Madukaife, please. Even the President Muhammad Buhari has issued an executive order for local government money to pay directly to the local government councils. And it is, so why will the state government challenge a clearly stipulated provision of the Constitution? What was their reason for challenging, for going on appeal? Why? What's their reason?
If they found the courage to challenge that decision, it would even be an act, it would be to their credit. But they did not. What they are simply doing is what we call rear guard action. Rear guard action. And I'll explain it this way. By possessing the instrumentality, albeit illegally, to appoint or purport to appoint chairmen, transition so-called, in the local government, and back it up by appointing councillors. Certain people are called in caucus and given a condition. So it is not the mere act, the administrative act of rerouting the money to the local government, which has been accomplished thanks to the federal government. God bless the federal government, and it is to their credit. But then, if I pervert the constitution and say, rather than Nnewi North having an elected local government that will be elected by the good people of Nnewi, I'll call Daniel Elombah and say, Daniel, go to Nnewi and sit as the transition council chairman. Do you accept? You say yes. You know now. You know what comes there. And you know what should come back to Oka. You know. And you say you agree. If you say you don't agree, let us look for another candidate. Do you now see where the water is running foul?
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
there is a round tripping that is going to burst open soon. I am glad that some prominent persons in society, after committing initial errors, are beginning to wisen up to the situation. If you've been reading the news lately, you will find the boss of opposition coming from Ato Eze and a couple of others who realize, and it doesn't take long, it just takes a federal allocation for 1 month. And I challenge you to do the research. We find out what is paid to local governments in Anambra State.
Now, do we have that figure? Do we have that figure at the moment? What do we know as the allocation to Anambra State local government?
No, well, the truth is that it varies. But to just give you a picture, no local government in Anambra State earns less than 170 million naira a month, and up to 304 million for those in the highest range. That is the range of money that is being circulated, and the people that belong to this local government are not saying, when did we choose our leader?
So what happens to this money? So what happens to this money?
That's what you'll be finding out in the next episode. When you invite the Anambra State government and perhaps maybe those local government transition committee people. Now, if you discover that, you will realize that even in economic spheres, if you want to build a successful business, you must pay emphasis to leverage. It is not what one person does, but what we get so many others to do. So a state that should have 22 governments has one, and you think the situation will be the same. What happened to the horizontal competition that will take place between local governments? That you've done this, oh, I can do it for my local government too. You've done this, I can do it for my own local government. It's all lost, and that's in Zik State. That's in Dim Chukwu State. We can do better.
Now, another point I'm taking from you is that it is even illegal for the state government to go into the markets and impose levies.
Oh yes, many of the markets belong to the local government.
So why has no one challenged this illegality in the state then? Maybe
you can only do so much as an individual or a group at a unit type. Don't forget, I have alluded to civil society. Now, it is not every matter that is wrong that is politic. There are certain fights that are impolitic. Why? You do not operate in the same intellectual plane as the people you are dealing with, and still they have a role in the votes. Because when the counter is played, it will be like, you are causing trouble. You challenge this, you challenge it, you challenge it. We challenge the idea that you should hold local government elections. Let somebody else challenge the fact that local government functions are being usurped by the state government and nobody is doing anything about it. But then, who will bear the cat? There is only one government and one opposition party in Anambra State waiting to take over. The others are in a holiday waiting for election jamboree.
Thank you very much. It's not a very pretty thing to be hearing from Anambra State. Meanwhile, we're inviting our audience, our guests and listeners. If you have any question, please let us know. I'll also be checking on Facebook to see what questions are coming in. In the meantime, there are other parties in Anambra State. So I'm about to ask. We have the YPP that produced a senator. I'm aware that the senator representing Anambra South is from the YPP. Now we have APC, we have PDP, and we have ABGA actually. So we have 4 parties in Anambra State: the People's Democratic Party, the All Progressive Congress, the ABGA, and the YPP. Is there any other one that I'm missing? So that before I ask my question.
Is there any other one that does what?
Is there any party that I'm missing that exists in Anambra State before I ask my question, please, if you can assist?
I don't go about looking for parties that don't exist. I have told you there is one government formed by ABGA and one opposition party by APC, which is preparing to take over.
But we have a Senator Ifanyeva is from the YPP, isn't it? And we have, in fact, my rep, Chris Azubogo, is in the PDP. So we actually have 4 political parties and not 2, as you are stating.
We don't have, if you want it in an extended sense, you don't have 4 political parties. You have, after all the ban on INEC, you have 18 political parties. So if that is what you mean, then you have 18 political parties. But to use the words of Jim Chukwuemeka, some of these are in the lunatic fringes, where you have the husband as the chairman and the wife as the secretary. That will not feature in our calculations. I don't even think that we should, at the risk of sounding immodest, begin to put YPP in our calculations. I don't think that when things happen as a one-off thing, we should learn to understand it for what it is. I have alluded to a principle that runs parallel in business as in politics, and that is leverage. If you remove the man you mentioned, what is left in the party you mentioned? If you remove the senator representing Anambra South today, what is left in YPP? Don't forget that they are presidential candidates. They are the presidential candidates of the party you mentioned as it comes to APC.
I've renounced the party. Is that what you said?
The presidential candidate of YPP in the 2019 election, Dr. Kisley Moralo, has become to APC.
Since when?
So, and I then ask you, if you remove Senator Ifeanyi Ubah, who is left in YPP?
Sorry, please.
What is the leverage? What is the structure? What is the policy? Where is the manifesto?
When did the Mogalo come to APC? I'm not aware of that. So maybe I'm ignorant.
Well, I'm informing you, and you could go check. Dr. Mogalo is no longer in YPP. He is supposed to be the leader of the party. So let's not begin to diversify the
Okay, well, yes, we are discussing about APC.
If PDP was alive to its responsibility as a political party, perhaps would have counted it in. But as of today, we have one party in power which manifesto is clannishness. Umunne, that is the manifesto. And another one that has a strong manifesto, another one that had a plan in the election he won, but was cheated from it, to build Anambra Airport in 12 months, to erect sports facilities to keep the youth busy, to extend the interstate roads from where it was stopped under the blueprint set up by Senator Chris Ngige, to expand the potential of Anambra tourism, and gain insight into how we can earn money from Agolo, from Owunike, from Owerejukala. I can go on and on. We need vision. The time has passed for people to come to you and say, I am your brother, but they are killing you blind, particularly in the local government.
So how do you rate?
It's better to have a stranger who you say you hate, but who will come and make your airport international. He will come and break a 40-year-old jinx of constructing the second Niger Bridge. He will come and repair all the roads in the southeast. He will come and reroute the east-west railway line and include Onitsha as the route and take it to Aba and get a hub I can go on and on. APC loves Anambra, and Anambra is loving APC.
So what we are looking at, how do you rate the, obviously Anambra State has a problem. So how do you rate the present governor, Willie Obiano, in terms of fulfilling the aspirations of the Anambra people? How do you rate his government? His
Excellency Governor Willie Obiano does not pretend to have fulfilled any aspirations of Anambra people. For the simple reason that he was ill prepared. Even from the debate, you could see he was caught in expo. The rule of the game said you should have one clean sheet of paper with to note points and questions. Just like I have a clean sheet of paper here. But what did you find? You find you caught him with 16 sheets of paper that the kind of answers you find in exam malpractices, which suggest that somebody saw something before the question came. But that's on a lighter note. I don't know what anybody considers the aspirations of Anambra people. Anambra people form the arrowhead of an area described by our forefather, Elombah Ekwino, as a land that is free of beggars. A land where they ask for only the level playing field. As a land where they do not ask for fish, they ask to be taught how to fish. By the same token, everybody who comes with good intention, Anambra is one of the easiest states to govern, because when you mobilize the people, they follow you. It happened in the time of Christ, and to a reasonable extent, it happened. Reasonable but lesser extent, it happened in the time of Peter. We're not seeing anything of the sort now. So we are counting our time, because we know that every bad season must end, and a good season will take over from that. And that APC will be very fair to Anambra State in terms of recovering the years that was lost to the locust. Peter Obi cannot say he raised 1.2 billion naira internally generated revenue, and the government of the day is proud to still announce 1 billion. That means we regret. So I do not know, but to answer your question directly, whether it's fulfilling the dream, the aspirations of Anambra people, what does Anambra want? Anambra wants a conducive environment to take their economy through the private sector to golden heights. Anambra wants a peaceful environment that is free of intimidation, an environment that accommodates free speech. Anambra people fit into the larger structure of the Igbo people, who say that if you want to be a leader, you pay our debt. That was their own philosophical instrument to making leadership less attractive. So what that means is that if you want to lead, you will have put some thought to it. You will have developed a vision. You will have spent sleepless nights. We lead is not ready. Well, he is not the leader cast in the mold of the leaders that we cited here for excellence. So he cannot possibly perform. These things do not come by accident. Or he cannot take the blame alone. Somebody put him there. People, he takes the blame. So between Peter Obi and Willie Obiano, they have dragged Anambra State 8 years behind. But there is hope, because we can recover. The only people that are fulfilling the aspirations of Anambra State are those people who from outside Anambra State have been able to ensure that they have access to their home state by land, sea, and air. And that there will be railway stations in every capital in the southeast. Those are the people that Anambra will continue to be friends to. Those are the people that draw the inspiration from APC, because it's not an accident. It's a carefully written manifesto with the discipline to implement it.
Now, well, I think about 2 weeks ago, or less than 2 weeks ago, we have the Commissioner for Information, Sidon Adenoba, as our guest here. There are some of the achievements he listed for us as the achievements of this Governor Obiano administration. First of all, he said there is no more story of kidnapping in Anambra State, that there is no longer stories of armed robbery. I think he said the last bank robbery took place in 2017, I guess.
Okay, now.
And so he is saying that in terms of security, that the present Abuja governor has done very, very marvelously. Another thing he mentioned is that by November, we'll be hearing good news concerning Anambra Airport. Now, how would you respond to this claim, to these claims?
I will respond from behind, starting from number 2. Everything that's an announcement that belongs to the future, then the future will take care of it. But to answer to the first one, I don't think the Commissioner for Information in Anambra State understands the principles that erected the government in terms of campaign commitment. He doesn't understand the 4 C's. He doesn't understand the 4 C's of reconstruction, completion, construction, commencement, and on all of them that have kissed the dust. He does not understand the golden heights, the golden aspirations that were erected on agriculture. Now, what is he alluding to are the 12 enablers. Security is one of the 12 enablers. I would concede, because what we are is a political party, not a set of doubting Thomases that are being identified about views. I will concede Governor Obiano his own modest achievements on stabilizing the issue of security at the higher level for wealthy people. But that is not wholesale security of the type that is in the APC vision. There's a lot of crime going on in Anambra State. What you can say is that kidnapping has ended. So he has created the way for them. That is because every person you see who is of a net worth individual carries with 2 or 3 policemen, sometimes 1 bus load of policemen, which then creates a situation where the rest of the state or the rest of the country is under police. So when you solve one, you have created another. The best way to go about it is to be holistic. What happened to those lofty ideals espoused in a large volume report said to have been facilitated by Israelis in terms of security from the Anambra State Security Summit? What is the extent of implementation? I'm giving you the raw materials to place before Abga government when they come singing this kind of song. The Commissioner for Information, who by the way does not understand that Ukulu is not in Nijikoka local government area. It's not easy to understand such when you want to dethrone a traditional ruler illegally for free speech. It's not easy. But that gives you an idea that he is singing the song that somebody has played in his musical set. But he has no depth. He does not have a proper depth of the kind of promises made by Abga, particularly in the area of power. Now, when they found no achievement, they began to turn line from official offices of government into the high act. First, we heard that there was 5 million naira earned from Ogo and Onubu.
Where is the Ogo and Onubu plantation?
Then we heard that there were $4 billion investments in industries in Anambra State. And they must be lying in the air because no pictures are anywhere and no new jobs have been created. And then we wondered aloud where the power that will service those industries are. And then we looked around and found that Abu Lake was still the way it was. And so on and so forth. It is a matter that draws tears. But we must purify our elections so that 1 bag of salt and 1,000 naira will not determine the way forward. When moment we begin to do that, there's a lot to do. I understand there are a lot of members of the diaspora in this audience, and I think that they have a role to play. Anambra lacks civil society, and sometimes it takes people who are abroad, our medieval societies, and to an extent the modern societies, achieved this by using Umuada. What was the concept of Umuada? Because they have been married and they live in other areas, they do not live at home. So when a crisis comes up, they are relied on as people who have not taken a position on such issues. And so, with tears in my eyes, I plead with the diaspora community that they have a role to embrace democracy in Anambra State. And once you have the structure and the form, we can play the functions in. People can come and they go, and you can compare their performance one with another. But if it is just a fluid and amorphous structure, it becomes easy to assess how you are performed only in terms of how many you are able to pay in social media to keep telling lies that you need to tell another lie to cover. So that's my challenge this evening. They are abroad, they have people at home, they need to be in touch with them. Have you done an election? When was that time election? Why is that election not holding? Because if you do election, you can take care of primary health care. You can take care of basic things. There are roads that can be constructed by the local government. The sewage system, everything they call governor, naming ceremony they call governor. And what have they done? When they created a vacuum, they tried to fill it, and they are running into problems. So today they say the president general of a town union should go and discharge the duty that the local government would do. Or you send traditional rulers on an errand as if they are civil servants to discharge a role that is not meant to their own, as long as they are sticking to your instruction. But when once one of them tries to express an independent opinion, like a traditional ruler of Ukulu, saying that we need local government elections, he is being default. And the Commissioner for Information said it's from Njikoka, local government. That is the kind of commissionership we have.
So how do you...
that is my challenge.
We are coming to the end of this program. Our guests, please, we expect your questions. Very soon we'll be rounding up. Now, what do you make of this altercation between a private citizen, Atoeze, and the governor of Anambra State? Do you have any... What led to it? And between Atoeze and the Governor Willie Obiano, what is going on between the governor and the private citizen? Do you have an idea?
It's as good as describing what I'm doing here as an altercation between me and the governor. If we did that, it would be an error because we personalize the issues. What is that saying? He is saying that there is no local government election. He is saying that his local government of 6 towns is degenerating. It's actually losing part of their land resources to erosion. And there is nothing happening. And there is a lot of resources that the federal government has carefully moved down directly to the local government, bypassing the joint account funding at the state level because of abuses. You may not know that certain governors, were it possible to mention them by names now, I would have done so. But when you eventually find out who they are, it will interest you. We have found moving local government money away from the country. That was what accelerated the National Finance Intelligence Unit, which is now regulating the direct remittance of funds to the local government. But the work is not over. So that issue is a large issue that has been on the ground. It is not an Atoeze issue. It is a Daniel Elombah issue. It is a Vanguard issue. It's an NTA issue. It is an issue for channel television. It is an issue to drum up to the ears of the world that Anambra needs help to complete its struggle for democracy and establish 22 governments.
Thank you very much. Now, okay, next year there'll be an election. Do you have an idea of the people APC, possibly people APC will predict? Sorry, let's take this question before I ask that question. Sorry, I've seen a hand. Okay. Nicholas, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Nicholas, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Madukaife. I was, maybe I didn't hear you correctly. You were saying something to the effect that there was a security agreement between Anambra and Israeli. Am I correct?
Yes, there was a security summit organized by the Anambra state government, in which invited expertise and participation of the Israeli government.
Okay.
And in that summit, they arrived at resolutions which will take care of matters of security at the level that would affect the critical mass, not the elite that have made a lot of money that were being kidnapped. None has been implemented.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So the call is for Anambra state government to publish the report, publish its white paper, publish the extent of implementation, and then we can assess, we the people will assess how far they have gone. Because APC has a security master plan which will take Anambra to the highest level of security. And when that is done, subsequent governments will not cite security as an achievement. Security is a given. It is the greatest role of government.
From what you are saying, you've mentioned the role of civil society organizations here. Why are people so fixated on the federal government? It appears that people do not pay adequate attention to what goes on at the state level. Why are the CS?
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Why are people dependent?
You have mentioned about the role of the civil society organizations, and all of us are aware that democracy is not just about going to the polls to elect civilians to be at the head of government. For democracy to work, there is a role for the civil society organizations. Now, but it appears that in Nigeria, people only pay attention to what happens. The CSOs pays attention to what happens at the federal government and ignores completely the state government, which impacts more on people's livelihood. So where do we start to make amends to pay attention to governors now to see that they deliver democracy dividends to the people?
Thank you very much. I think you captured it. There's no better way to capture it. A lot of people position the federal government, a lot of people talk about news and they look for Abuja. Abuja is very remote from them. They don't live in Abuja, but they will pass, for somebody who lives in Njikoka, for instance, he will pass the secretariat in Abagana. He does not care how much has been allocated for poultry in Njikoka. He will pass that secretariat and be doing tantrums to governments that live in America, governments that live in Abuja, but have not forgotten, I have not voted for a local government chairman. It's a person that is parading himself as chairman. Why? When did we elect him? Or who elected you? Why did you say you're honorable? So it is an attitude thing. Our people need mobilization. We need help. The longer these things stay, the more we begin to lose confidence in ourselves. And that's why I say it's a long campaign, and there is a partisan side and a non-partisan side. Hence, the civil society.
Thank you very much.
People will be looked on as, look, I don't have a direct thing to benefit. I am not saying this so that if an election is conducted, I will win. Because a political party is doing that because they have direct interest. Look, we have not elected people. Let's do an election. It's possible that if you do this election, APC will win that in local government. But if you go and appoint, you appoint all because you are claiming power, because you are incumbent. But the law does not allow you to continue to appoint. And so this is where the issue lies. So there is a partisan and a non-partisan interest.
Nicholas.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nicholas. Do you have a follow-up question or have your question?
Yes. I have a follow-up question. Honorable sir, I still want to take you up on that security matter. Now, you said the APC has a security master plan. Now, when you juxtapose that position with what is happening at the national level, you know, there seems to be a contradiction, because at the national level, there is a high level of criticism in the way security has been handled, especially given the large-scale insecurity in the country. So how do you reconcile that with the blueprint you claimed that APC has?
Especially given what? I lost that part of your sound.
Yeah, especially given your claim that APC in Anambra State has a security blueprint. Yeah, I mean, yes. Look at the national level. At the national level, there is a lot of noise about the way security is being handled. given a lot of insecurities, and with the call for all the service chiefs to, to be either sacked or that they should resign their office. So now in Anambra, you are claiming that you have a security master plan. Don't you see a contradiction there?
I don't see any contradiction. I was elected 10 years ago to be spokesperson of ACN. And today I am spokesperson of APC in Anambra State. I don't claim any national credentials on that. And now, so when I say that we have a 12-point manifesto that has been reformed from time to time, that has an excellent plan on security for Anambra State, then I want to be taken up on that if there is a loophole. However, because we don't live in isolation, you said, and I quote, there's a lot of noise. When I was discussing what the government has done at the federal level, I went as far as analyzing the specifics. I said we have lost a lot of ground to Boko Haram territorially, and that we recovered all. I said there was a Shinorambo, and there is none anymore. I said that the federal government understands that having won the war, you now have to win the peace. So it has taken steps to commission a sociological study to find out why those insurgencies happened in the first instance. But beyond that, there's a lot of arms in the system, small arms for that matter. And those things will continue to be mopped up. Now, those things don't take one day and they don't take 1 week, but you can see a plan. And somebody is telling you about it. The challenge is what we're giving Anambra State government. There is no security. What you simply have is a governor who sneaks outside the state and outside the country without announcing to his people that he's traveling or who is in charge of the state. So many times you find out, you don't even know where the deputy governor is. You just find somebody begins to act. You find the secretary to the state government becoming the secretary, becoming the voice of government, becoming everything. We have a rudderless government in place who is hard put to discuss his policies. I tell you, I have challenged Dan to invite Anambra State government here to explain some of the areas where I have challenged them. But it might take him 3 years, maybe after the 2021 elections, to get them to speak on their policy. Beyond those 3 paragraph sentences or statements that they issue that say that Ukulu is in Njikok and local government area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nicholas, are we expecting more questions from you?
No. That's okay for now.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a very, very interesting evening. Well, Anambra State are looking ahead to next year. So, who are the personalities that APC has in mind? I know that the political campaigning have not started, but who are the personalities that Anambra State will be looking ahead to see from APC?
Thank you very much. APC understands what they call paradigm shift. So we are not dwelling on personalities that will make Anambra tick or make APC tick. We are dwelling on how a party can collectively meet its agenda such that whoever it trumps up in the final analysis will be able to implement the blueprint and the document that is in place. That is what has been missing. That is what is missing in APGA. When was the last time APGA had a national convention? They elect people, they stay in court, live in court, dine in court, and then ventilate in court until another 4 years, they pretend to do another election as a political party. I don't know if they have a manifesto. Perhaps they do, but APC emphasizes manifesto. But it doesn't stop us from acknowledging that all the people that have the intellect, the vision, the positive exposure, both at home and in diaspora, are today in APC. We have, in no particular order, Engineer Chidozie Nwankwo, founder of Wichitech, successful businessman. We have Ben Ekeaba. He was the leader of the London group. That group that was set up with the knowledge of Nigerian government to create a caucus that will lead Nigeria into becoming a world power. We have John Bosco Ononkwo. We have Bat Mwibe. We have George Moral, who is today the managing director of National Inland Waterways Authority. And we have so many others We have Honorable Dozier Wankwo, who used to be in Abga until he saw division. Anyway, he started in ACN. He went to sea and he did not conquer. So he's back with us. And there are so many more. These are men of intellect, men of exposure, men that are going there. Each of them can give Anambra what he wants, following the blueprint that APC has carefully set in place. Being patient, not being in a rush to say we want this, we want that. Everything APC wins, it wins fairly. So if you conduct the local government elections today, APC will win neat and clear. If you conduct governorship elections, we will win.
Thank you very much. Before we from what you stated here, something else comes to my mind about people who moved out to APC, tasted waters, and then come back. And the last time we had an APC, PDP chieftain from Anambra State, he also lamented the same thing. Well, what happened in Edo State as well? That we are
the last time we had what?
The last time we have a PDP chieftain from Anambra State. Now he was lamenting. Yes. He was lamenting the fact that some people will move away from PDP. Some people towards the election, some people will jump in from other parties into PDP, take away the ticket, contest.
Thank you. It's a problem that goes beyond Anambra State.
Yeah, I want to ask a question, baby. I'm trying to ask a question based on this. Now, someone like you have stayed in the party for as long as I remember. In fact, the ACN, the APC, you are still there. What is APC's position with regards to, because once the election is coming in now, I saw the last election, we have a Senator Anambra who was in PDP, jump into APC. We have Uche Kunife who was in PDP, jump into APC, pick a ticket, and now she is back to PDP. Is this thing going to repeat itself in APC towards the election? What do you say?
Thank you. That's why I said it's an issue that goes beyond Anambra State. Some issues can be resolved in Anambra State. Some issues cannot be resolved. I have participated in national discourses where that was not Anambra specific, where solutions were sought on this kind of thing. And I had a personal submission. This does not belong to my political party. I said Section 68 of the Constitution says if you are an office holder, you cannot change your political party unless you resign your position. And then he didn't stop there. He now went ahead to put an exception. Except your party is in crisis. By benefit of hindsight, that exception is unnecessary. And I said that if you amend it to remove that, you would have less of movement here and there, which leaves a lot of people that have no position. You can't hold them or anything. They are amorphous. They hardly have enough time to understand what one party stands for before they move to another one. And if you begin to count, you will find so many of them in Anambra State. So I have a position that if you remove that, if your party is in crisis, you solve the problem. If you don't solve the problem, you pay by resigning your position. Because if you look at the way political parties are structured, if you have been to the House of Reps, for instance, many parties allow in their constitution that when you enter, you become a member of their caucus. So you move from leadership of one organization to the leadership of another that is diametrically opposed. It is dementia.
Thank you.
We can do better.
Thank you very much.
We can do better.
Thank you very much, Architect Okelo Madukaife. It's been a very, very engaging evening. And we give you 15 seconds, a final thought on our topic tonight, the state of APC in Anambra State and their prospects in the forthcoming Anambra governorship election. 15 seconds, please. What's your thought?
Okay, thank you very much. My brothers and sisters in Anambra and those outside Anambra who are supporting them and who are in this audience, our message is very simple. Our message is that every child that does not senior another child is regarded by Igbo, by philosophy, as a bad child. And so if your wife gives birth to a child and then 16 years down the line in her productive age, she does not give birth to another child, you begin to run from pillar to post. People say that anything that is one is not good. That's why we see with the eyes and God made it too. We breathe with the nose and God made the nostrils too. We walk with the legs and God made it too. Drawing from that philosophy, the Americans from who we borrowed democracy, and the Britons have never allowed one party to stay longer in office than necessary. It is time to try others. So even if it is stupidity that they have to offer, then we will see their own stupidity in government and compare with the stupidity of the previous ones. Never mind my choice of illustration. So what we are saying is that Anambra needs to change. And when you change to a party that is consistent with following policies, a party that is consistent with offering policy alternatives, a party that is not absent as a political party. And APC is ready to take over. And some of the problems that beset Anambra State are federal in nature because they draw their solutions from there. And I'll give you an instance. The dredging of the Lower Niger was commissioned by the Yar'Adua government. Jonathan administration that pretended to be so much in love with Ndibo stopped it after Kogi State segment. And I cannot account for where the money is today. Yet he had a lot of Igbo people in his administration. The Buhari administration came and took the position of the Southeast that you should go for the greater good of the greater number by addressing the issues of infrastructure in the Southeast. Because once that is done, the Igbo man will rise and help himself to build empires and economy. And our GDP will rise and life indices will improve. And because of that, he has proved a better friend, converting the cassava farms that turned out to be a Enugu-Onitsha expressway into roads of international standards, and using that as a connection point, all the infrastructure. And so we have hope. This is a hope we need to build on. And this is a hope that leads us to say that we should demand local government in Anambra State and get it done and vote for APC. We do not have to demand because governorship election is given and you vote for APC. Then we will try an alternative. When you marry two husbands, you will have a basis for comparison. Anambra, please marry a second husband, a very caring and loving husband in APC.
Thank you very much. Mr.
Can I quickly interject a bit here before Mr. Okelo finally leaves?
Another final thing.
I say I would like to quickly say something before you run, because okay. This is an opportunity finally to have an interchange with you. Can I say face to face? Yes, digitally face to face. Even though one thing I like about you is your consistency. As far back as I can remember APC, you have always been consistent about your positions and your opposition engagements in this and Anambra State, and so and even in national issues there are, because at a point I think you are still even the acting chairman of CAPS, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, I'm the acting chairman of CAPS.
Thank you very much. Now, considering the last presidential election, where I think APC did woefully, very badly in Anambra State. I think APC got just 5% of the votes in Anambra State. Don't you think that is an uphill task you have here, trying to be with all optimism here, so to say, trying to install a governor in Anambra State? Don't you think so?
I hope this question will not lead to Mushi boy and VI boy. Well, thank you very much. That's on the lighter note. I think that election is never considered in isolation. Election is never considered in isolation. Hope is not a strategy. Politics, like war, is fought with a strategy. If APC worked out the strategy for winning the federal elections in 2019, and that strategy does not make Anambra State a priority, it doesn't make any one of us inferior. It is about saying, this is where I have the path of least resistance. And If I focus this energy here, whatever I garner in all other areas will lead me to victory. And so what we should have is commendation for a party that sat down, worked out their strategy, went and implemented the war chest, and it succeeded. I have, in my opening statement, established the consistency of APC in governorship elections for those who would like to think that a presidential election in which Anambra State may not have counted so much in the election winning strategy of APC nationwide, considering that presidential election is one election, that they should perish the thought. They should perish the thought. The coaches in football know what they do. If their strategy is to push up front, they can score 5 goals. And if you score 2, they are won. And if a coach who emphasizes defense, he will block everywhere. Once he gets 1 goal to counter attack, and he continues to block everywhere, so the match will end 1-0. So that's how technical the game can be. So let us, for one moment, remove our eye on those figures, pure or impure as they are, pure or impure as they are, clean or unclean as they may be. It is not the concern. What is important is that APC worked out the strategy and won the federal election. And that if you do the governorship election, APC will win. If I'm not paying attention to a particular area and I don't deploy funds, I don't deploy agents, I don't deploy machinery, I don't deploy the tools with which I win the election in that direction, it is not a sin. Let me stop there. Let me stop with that.
All right. Ocean Okafor raised a hand lately. Let's quickly, please make it very, very brief because our time is over. We've run so much over time. Make it very
and sorry, if I may add, it's not as if you don't know, but sometimes just reminder so that this needs not be twisted. When PDP finished their primaries, they chose their vice presidential candidate from Anambra State. And that may have been an undertone to the workout of strategy that they emphasize Anambra as a winning tool for the election. If you bring a goat from Anambra State to go and contest presidency, we expect him to get votes in Anambra State. And you could be an enemy thinking that you won't get votes. So the emphasis is not there. And it's not as serious an issue as the governorship election has established.
All right, Obinna, please.
Okay, thank you, Elombah, for the opportunity. Good evening, my friend Okelo, Madukaife. I know that after your state congress, sometime in 2017 or 18, Barrister Emeka Obi emerged as the chairman. Then at some point, Honorable Basile Jidike, which I think is still currently the chairman of the party in Anambra State. I would love to know what actually is the problem if you people are having any leadership crisis. I also think you're in court. I would love you to shed more light on this.
Thank you very much. It's like asking what happened that made Jonathan succeed Yaradua. What happened is simple. Life happened. Jonathan, Yaradua took ill. His condition was managed, and he died. And an argument ensued as to who will succeed him, with some people naturally pushing interest in a way that was nearly impossible for another to succeed him. In the final analysis, by the intervention of a lot of multilateral forces, Jonathan became the vice president. By similar token, we had a congress in 2018, a very peaceful one at that, in which I emerged, re-emerged, elected as publicity secretary. In that same election, Barrister Emeka Ibe, not Obi, emerged as he was declared winner and won in. But the co-contestants in that election went to court and challenged his election in court. And in the wisdom of the court at the lower level, the court ordered a re-election. And so, Sabatile Jidike, who was elected as deputy chairman, became the acting chairman, in which position he still is, while Emeka Ibe challenged that action in the court. It does not affect APC. It does not translate to a crisis. The word has been used freely of late, but it's not, there's no crisis in APC. APC is stable, firm. Emeka is pursuing his matter peacefully. In court, we wish him well. We have no grudges against him. And but APC is in the martial strategy. It's like when there is when somebody has a leg injury, you draw somebody from the reserve bench, put there, and the game goes on. That's where we are.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, in any way, did that court judgment that made Basile Jidike the acting chairman affect the local government and the world?
I don't think you need to ask. If you invalidate an election of the chairman and order another election, a vacuum in leadership has been created. And the Constitution is very clear about who should act. It is the deputy. It's almost a convention. So there's no exploration.
No, what I want to know is, did it in any way affect the local government award executive of your party?
The local government that did what?
The local government and ward executive of your party, did that judgment
No, certainly not. No, certainly not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okafor, for that interjection. We welcome your comments and questions. Thank you very much for attending our today's event, even though it's not related to your party. But that is what we are discussing about. There should be a viable opposition, because when the government in power have a free rein to, elevate all over the place, if there is no opposition, then there will be no real government. So thank you very much for attending.
Of course. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Mr. Architect Okelo Madukaife, for being here with us. It's been a very, very real pleasure and very enlightening. And we thank our guests, we thank our co-host, Team Elo, for being with us tonight, our editor, and on all other, some journalists have left. I will have thanked them. We look forward to having their report. Thank you all. Thank you, our guests. Thank you, Efanye. I notice you are here. Thank you, those Reginald, Michael.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been an exciting session for me, and it's a lot of brain exercise. This is only in the introductory. When next I am here, there will be a lot of data to work with, and then we will have started inching closer to our destination.